What is going on, Spurs fans? It's Ethan Quintero here for another edition of SSPN Postgame. This time it was the dreaded Houston Rockets. I don't know if they're our number one rival in history, but certainly in my eyes, the Houston Rockets have become the San Antonio Spurs rival for many reasons. One, we've had a long history of battles with them, and then, of course, how the draft worked out with Wemby. So, these games have a little bit more emotional pull to them. Definitely a little bit more exciting to watch. But unfortunately for the Spurs, none of that really mattered because it ended up being a 13-point loss. And quite honestly, even though it was competitive really from start to finish until the very end, and props to our guys for not giving up at any point, but this game felt like it belonged to the Houston Rockets from the get go. Um, the first quarter 21 to 26 in favor of Houston. I didn't get to watch the first quarter and take fully detailed notes. Again, I apologize. I was really just watching it almost as a fan. It felt competitive, but at the same time, sort of low intensity, struggled in the half court offensively. Production from the bench early was dismal. I don't think we scored a single bench point for that first 3 minutes of their rotation coming in for the starters. Um, and at the end of the quarter, Wemby kind of helped build the momentum back up for everybody. But at the same time, it was just a stagnant offense. There was very little pressure put on the Rockets. They had all the momentum. Their defense was swarming Wemby, and he had difficulty playing through the physicality. And when Wemby struggles, like he did tonight, only had 10 points, still managed to get 11 rebounds and 7 blocks. But when he only gets 10 shots up, only hits 4 of those shots for a cumulative point total of 10, um, it's going to be a tough night for the Spurs. So that was pretty much the full game summary. But I think it's important that we stay with the normal structure of the show. So I'm going to go ahead and do the awards that we instituted last game real quick. And this is a difficult one because, really, like I alluded to at the beginning, not much positive to go on. But at the same time, we're going to give you guys the content. Award number one, Wemby moment of the game. There were slim pickings, but he still had one incredible highlight. I think it was in the first quarter when he blocks Shangoon, took the ball off of the backboard, took it coast to coast, crossed over, step back three, and drained it. Probably one of the only highlights you'll see from Wemby this game. I know he had 7 blocks, but other than that, highlight wise, it was slim pickings. Second star of the game. This one was tough, man, because you could go Devin Vassell. I think he's definitively the second star on the team. Just holistically looking at the roster as far as future potential, who's the guy that could potentially be the Batman? It's Devin Vassell, obviously. But for this game, I had to give the nod to Malachi Branham, who had 20 points tonight coming off the bench on efficient shooting, 8 for 14 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3-point land, and only 26 minutes of play. Devin had 22, but had 40 minutes. Inefficient shooting, only shot 1 for 5 from 3. And Malachi's points seemed to have more momentum, more impact to the actual game. It was when we were down 5 to 7 points in that third quarter, and he was just trying to keep us alive. Same thing in the fourth quarter. He was a big reason it was competitive, especially late in the game. Um, with that being said, I'm also going to give him the nod for bench player of the game because it was back in that seventh man role behind Keldon Johnson as the sixth man. You could give this to KJ too, but I think Malachi's impact was a little bit greater tonight, especially in the moments that he was impactful. But just to give Keldon a nod, I'm going to give him my last award, which is Unsung Hero of the Game. And that seems kind of oxymoronic to even bring up because we lost the game and it was a tough one to watch. But I'm still going to give out the award. And Keldon had a decent game for himself, 18 points, 6 rebounds, a couple of assists, 5 for 12 shooting. He felt a little bit more aggressive tonight, trying to get to the basket, but still managed to have 3 threes. So overall, a good game from Keldon. It was just the Rockets outplaying us. And when Shangoon has 45 points, Jalen Green has 23, Fred Van Fleet has 21. Those are tough numbers to overcome for any team. And then I can't even forget Cam Whitmore, the absolute bucket off the bench for them, 19 points in only 20 minutes of play. I mean, that guy's a walking basket. So when they're putting up numbers like that and have all the energy, all the focus, all the momentum, um, it's tough to win. And that's what we saw tonight. So let's take a look at the comments before I get into the quarter breakdown here. We have Mr. Gregory Wee. Spurs were a little flat. Wemby looked tired and hurt, and Şengün was unconscious. Just one of those games. Very well put, my friend Gregory. Couldn't agree more. Şengün really was unconscious, man. I mean, offensively and defensively, I felt like he might have had the best defensive game we've seen on Victor Wembanyama. I still think it was a team effort. It wasn't an individual one-on-one game. But what he was able to do, picking the ball loose on rip-throughs, controlling him in the post, not letting him spin one way or the other, and then, of course, the double team coming in a timely fashion. Uh, this was a really good showing from Şengün. I think maybe the only guy that guarded Wemby better this year was maybe Jonathan Isaac with the Magic earlier this year. Um, but it's up for debate. Let's see what Adrian has to say. Rockets were doing that Ime defense, and it took the Spurs' rhythm away and a way to close out the game. Yeah, I would argue the Spurs really didn't have a rhythm the entire time. Like there were moments in that second and third quarter that I was shocked. Or third quarter, second quarter was a pretty dominant quarter for the Spurs, but in that third quarter, there were some moments where I was like, I am surprised that we are in this game at all. Um, Aaliyah, great point from Aaliyah here. Rockets schemed well for Victor defensively, and I think it's a good learning game for Victor. I think this was one of the few times that he's been swarmed and the refs have allowed the other team to play that physically with him. Usually he'll get the foul call or luck his way out of it because he's 7'4" and just ungodly talented. Tonight it did not work out for him. So I think this is something that we could take into the film room with Pop and work on passing out of the double team and knowing where to look in those situations. Yeah, Easy, I have to agree with you on this comment here as well. Could Pop please set a double team once or twice on Şengün? Um, I'm trying to remember if there was an instant where we actually did set a double team, and if we did, it was few and far between because he was really having his way out there on those one-on-one matchups with Wemby. And I mean, at the same time, Wemby had 7 blocks, but even when he got those blocks, it felt like we weren't getting the offensive rebound. The tips were falling Houston's way. They were fighting for those extra possessions, and they were able to get easy putbacks and second chance points. Whereas the Spurs, Wemby got that block, and then it was pretty much we thought the possession was over. We're running out in transition, and we're giving up easy points. So I agree. We should have tried to set a double team. I don't know what the game plan was, but it clearly didn't work with Şengün having 45, 16, and 5 steals, which I noticed during the game, but I didn't realize how many he had actually got. 5 steals for Alperen Şengün is kind of insane. Let's see here. What other comments do we have? Let's see. Aaliyah says they saw the last 2 games, I'm assuming from Wemby, and said we are not about to let him play 1v1. Yep, pretty much. That's something to look at down the road as we go into these next few games down the stretch, is if teams are going to start adjusting in this way. Are they going to start sending double teams, triple teams, quadruple teams, and playing ultra physically with him? Because I think Wemby was feeling that. He looked tired a few times tonight. And I think at one point in the second quarter, he even went back to the locker room because of an injury of some kind. It obviously wasn't too serious. He came right back in the second half, but something to keep your eye on for sure. CJ wants to talk about the number of missed calls. He thought it was embarrassing. Yeah. I mean, every game you could talk about the missed calls. You're not wrong, CJ. I think if the refs had called it by the rule book, completely different game. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because at the same time, it was a physical game from both sides. I don't know if they were calling it in favor of the Rockets. I think they were just letting guys play. And we all have our opinions on that. Some people think the NBA should be more physical. Others think they should just call it the same way every single night, no matter what. So that's up for discussion, but I don't think it was an unfair advantage for the Rockets in terms of how they were actually calling the game. Let's take a look at blah, 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 who's always in here. Appreciate everybody being in here tonight. We have a few viewers. I know I'm by myself. Jude is having to work tonight. So I appreciate you giving me some things to go off of. It's a lot easier when you have a partner like Jude who's so talented to kind of bounce ideas off of. So appreciate you guys being in here as always. Blah, blah, blah says, disappointing game by the guys. Wemby learned some lessons today. Team has to pass the ball more. There's a lot of times the extra pass is missed. And I know it's tough to get 2014 Spurs, but we can try. Couldn't agree more, Mr. Blah, blah, blah. And before I get into the quarter breakdown, let's look at one more from Mr. CJ. Turnovers are also making a full return. CJ, you are spot on. And I think that will bring us into my quarter by quarter breakdown because I talk a lot about these silly turnovers that kind of plague the Spurs all night long. But first, Mr. Jude McLaren is in the comments tonight saying, love y'all. Jude, thank you for being here, sir. Hopefully you are able to listen to us while you either drive back from work or while you are working. We know you're a great multitasker. Everybody hit that like button, hit the subscribe button for Jude, who's doing two jobs at once tonight. What a guy. What a great guy. Devoted to the people in the comments section. With that being said, I already broke down the first quarter. Let's jump into the second quarter here. Keldon was finding success from three. Şengün was playing very clever around the rim, finding ways to eliminate Wemby's length and play around his outstretched hands. He kind of has that baby Jokic game. Even Sean Elliott called him a little bit reminiscent of Boris Diaw, just based on his footwork, how he's able to get open and use the rim to play around shot blockers like Wemby. Obviously, he had it going tonight. Rockets offense, way more fluid, way more focused. Devin was taking it strong even when he was being blocked. I appreciated that from him. He didn't have a great efficient night, but he was still playing with aggressiveness. Shout out to Chetty. I don't think he had a great game. Let's look at his box score. Yeah, only 6 points, but 3 for 4, efficient, 4 rebounds. But what I liked most from him was he was trying to push the pace when the rest of the team was kind of stagnant at times. Um, Love that veteran leadership from him, kind of understanding that we are falling back on our laurels here and letting Houston run all over us. Let's try and pick up the energy a little bit. Um, Zach looked comfy at times tonight. His overall box score, 6 points, 6 rebounds, a couple blocks. He hit his 1-3 tonight, which was from the corner. I believe also in that second quarter, just later on. Um, Zach Collins, I think he's been playing a little bit better as of late, the past couple weeks. But at the same time, he still has every deficiency that we've talked about at length this season. At least tonight, offensively, he was efficient, but he only had 1 assist, so we weren't playing really through him in the hub like we normally are. Part of that is Houston's ability to clog the lane with their size and length and athleticism to basically switch everything or even fight over screens. Like they could do anything they wanted to defensively tonight. So I can't even harp on him for that. But where he's most lacking is just being a defensive big against guys like Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Şengün, Cam Whitmore. Like he's just gonna get bodied, unfortunately, and that's just something we're gonna have to live with for the time being. Um, but with all that being said, in terms of like relativity to how he played earlier in the season, it wasn't that bad of a game from him. The Rockets' defense was just annoying, and nobody could really get anything going. Devin had an incredible transition block. And there were like moments like that where it was like, that's what we need. That's the spark plug to get us going. And then it would be followed up by silly turnovers, lapses in communication defensively, whatever it may be that allowed the Rockets to regain that momentum. Um, Keldon continuing to stay aggressive with his drives, drawing fouls. I said this note like 4 or 5 times, and I'm going to beat it like a dead horse. No one can slow down Alperen Şengün. But that last 2 minute stretch of this half was great basketball. I think we had the Zach corner three. KJ finished with a tough floater to bring us up 2 points. Devin pushed the pace in transition after a good defensive play that led to a three. And then we had a smart last possession. We took the last shot. Great defense to finish the half. We drew the loose ball foul, led to Zach free throws. He only hit one of the two, but we were able to finish the half up 6 going into the third quarter. Bringing us into the third quarter. Wemby came back. I know I said that he kind of got injured slightly in the second quarter, went back to the locker room. I haven't seen any reports. I'll be looking tonight. Stay tuned on SSPN's Twitter page for possible updates on his status. But he was able to come back and finish off the game, so I don't envision it being too serious. Really more of the same, man. Şengün getting easy dunks, the lane being wide open, no one challenging the Rockets as they attacked the rim, and the Spurs struggling mightily to get easy baskets in half court. We didn't have a great game in transition just because the Rockets were playing pretty well and executing and stopping fast break points. So we were having to execute in half court, and we kind of jumped back to how we were playing earlier in the season. So it was difficult to watch at times. Um, Jeremy Sohan versus Amen Thompson. Let's break this down real quick because I've wanted a fight all year long, and finally I got the one I wanted tonight against the Rockets. Amen Thompson kind of pushed Jeremy slightly. It didn't look serious, but he kind of pushed him in the back when Jeremy went for an offensive rebound. He missed the rebound. Jeremy hit the floor, and may or may not have inadvertently tripped Amen Thompson right after that. They both got up. They approached each other, kind of did the shoulder checking thing, getting in each other's face. Neither of them wanted to fight, let's be honest, but it was a little shoving match. Gave me a little bit more energy. And I, for one, liked it because why not? We're not playing super well. Rockets have all the momentum. Şengün's on fire. We needed something to kind of change up the energy of the game. Ultimately, it didn't work, but I'm not mad about it. Jalen Green deserves a shout out for the Rockets too. He was picking us apart. We had nobody athletically quick enough to stay with him along the perimeter. He was basically going in circles in the key and getting easy. I don't know how many reverse layups he had tonight, but it was impressive the amount of English he was able to spin that ball off the glass and just find wide open layups. And if we did ultimately help and contest, he was dropping it off for Şengün, who was getting easy layups and dunks. So it was a pick your poison game. Ultimately, the Spurs lost. Difficult to watch. Fourth quarter. Houston clogging the paint. Houston has all the momentum. Malachi Branham is the only one scoring with ease. Everyone else is struggling mightily. Keldon hit a three that cut it to 6. Tough finger roll for Devin to cut it to 4. We force a 5-second count turnover by the Rockets following a timeout. Rockets stopped Wemby from posting up about 4 times in a row. Turnover, 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 turnover. Mostly because of Şengün's defense picking the ball loose, denying inbound passes, or entry passes, excuse me. So the Rockets deserve a lot of the credit for this win more than the Spurs deserve credit for the loss, if that makes sense. Malachi was still trying, ultimately didn't work out. With 3 minutes left, it was an 8-point game. Quickly became a 10-point game. And the last note I had was Victor being swarmed all night long, needs to learn how to play through that. Great learning experience. We will get better because of this game. That's really all I had from tonight, guys. I mean, I feel like I've said the same thing over and over and over again, but Rockets defense, swarming Wemby, Spurs lack of energy and cohesion. It's the same recipe for why we've lost how many games now? 48? I think what makes this one tougher to swallow is that we kind of had some momentum, 2 wins in a row, and it felt like we had some chemistry building in a positive direction. And I still think that we do, but this was definitely a setback, and I can't pretend that it wasn't. So let's take a look at some of y'all's comments now. Let's see. Aaliyah, I agree with you. Nobody had a great game besides Malachi. I would say that's true. Statistically, you could argue Devin had a good game, like I said, but inefficiency, he had 40 minutes, wasn't super impactful. 1 for 5 from 3. Malachi definitely had the best game. And has been on an upward tick, I might add, not to toot my own horn, since that All-Star game or mid-season preview video that we did where I predicted he would have a better second half of the year. Was it because of SSPN? Who's to say? I will say yes. Let's see. Fats, I think that's a new name, but didn't this used to be Laura? But I like the name change if this is in fact who used to be Laura. But Fats says, "Hey, glad y'all are going live more. Appreciate you being in here, Fats." Also has a comment right after that. Team looked a little winded tonight. Yes, they did. Fair point. This wasn't a back to back. I think it was just a matter of the Spurs not knowing yet how to play through physicality. And the defense are a very physical team led by Ime Udoka, who's known for his defense. So uh, just something to play through and learn from. Not an excuse, just a reality. Let's see. Aaliyah, again, thank you for bringing in here. This team is so painfully bad, they quadruple team Victor because nobody on this team besides Wemby can shoot. Shaking my head. A little bit of a negative take there from Aaliyah. I didn't see the negative in you, but you know what? I appreciate the reality check. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's not a good Spurs team. No matter how much we improve, we're still bad. I think that part of this channel's charm is that we analyze the slight improvements here and there from game to game, small things that wouldn't necessarily be on the stat sheet. But that doesn't take away from the honesty here in your comment. You're right. Wemby is by far our best player, and when he has a bad game, it's tough for us to get a win. Let's see. Fats asks, did Blake Wesley play tonight? He did. This was one of the rougher games from Blake in a while. I'm the biggest Blake supporter. I will go to my grave loving Blake Wesley. I think that what he does doesn't necessarily show up on the box score, but he only had 0 points in 12 minutes of play. Missed both of his shots, both of which were threes. One of them I remember vividly being a complete brick. Didn't even hit rim, just hit backboard. But he did have 5 assists, so there's that. And he was only -1 in the plus minus, which was actually tied for best on the team. Everybody was negative. So in that regard, you could say that he played okay, but it was definitely a kind of a no-show from him. This is a great point here from Anois, who I think this might be the first time you've been in here, so appreciate you being in here. I'm surprised Barlow hasn't played yet. He could really help with his defense. Oh, he could really help with the defensive problems to help Wemby or Sohan. Şengün abused Wemby with his potential injury and frustration. I was surprised too, especially since Victor, I haven't brought this up yet, had 4 fouls early in the third quarter. Excuse me. I'm not used to talking this much. My throat's starting to itch. When Wemby got that 4th foul, I thought for sure we were going to see some Barlow minutes, especially when Zach was kind of being manhandled by Alperen Şengün and was really thin in that interior defense. But we're not the coaches. I don't know what the reasoning was. I would love to see some more Don Barlow minutes. But at the same time, there is the whole, we have Zach under contract for 2 more years. He's a trusted player with Pop. Offensively, he does add something that Barlow doesn't, which is just being a facilitator and technically a floor spacer. But personally, if I was choosing what I wanted to do, I would have given Barlow some minutes as well. Excuse me. Man, my throat, I am sorry, guys. It is starting to hurt a little bit because I don't normally talk all by myself. Aaliyah, I've shown you a lot tonight, but you're bringing up some good points. We aren't a physical team, and that's the issue. You are right. We depend a lot of times on the way that the NBA is usually called now. So when we get referees that are, quote-unquote, letting them play and letting them be physical, it's tough for us, and we get fatigued quickly. The spacing is so bar. I think you meant bad. I'm going to go with bad. And you're not right. For me, sometimes the offense, especially when we're struggling, I don't know if any of you play 2K, and I hate to bring this back to a video game, but when you play 2K Rec, or when you even play pickup basketball with a bunch of random guys, and you're struggling, people start cutting into each other. There's a lot of clutter. And I think that's kind of what happens to the Spurs. Like everybody wants to be the reason that we fix the offense. Everybody's trying to be that big play. And when that happens, we start doing a little too much. We start getting in each other's way. And I think that's kind of what we continue to see. Let's see. Aaliyah again. Also, maybe bad news incoming. Victor is possibly pretty hurt with a decently bad injury. I need a big sip of water after that one. I hope that's not true. Man, I am sorry. I hope that's not true because he is literally the only reason that these games are enjoyable. No offense to the rest of the Spurs, but when he doesn't play, it can get pretty painful. The only silver lining to that is that we will lose more games and get higher up lottery odds. And of course, for Jude fans out there, we'll get more Dominic Barlow minutes. But I really hope he's not hurt. That was one of the big concerns for him coming into his rookie year. He has been very healthy thus far into the season. So fingers crossed that it's not that bad. That's just precautionary. We'll keep a lookout. Let's see. Here we go. We got Jude McLaren in here again. He said, I rewinded, so I'm behind, but free my boy Dom. I'm sorry, Jude. He's not going to be freed. Spoiler alert. Oh my gosh. Guys, I might have to cut this one out early. I cannot talk right now. And I do not know why. Let's look at the last 3 comments here, and then we'll wrap it up. Anois, I've been subbed for a year. I'll check in more often. Heart emoji. We appreciate it, Anois. Come in more often, man. We'll bring up your, or woman, I don't know who you are. We'll bring up your comments, and we enjoy talking to you guys. So we appreciate you being in here. Odio Lodio. They all sagged off Sohan and Trey Jones and clogged the paint. Yeah, that was definitely the defensive game plan. And honestly, I would have wanted Jeremy. Well, he shot it 6 times. He only made 1. Never mind. He shot it plenty. They understand which players can and cannot shoot. It doesn't help that Devin Vassell shot 1 for 5. Goodness Lord, he needs to be sniping if we're gonna have to play Trey and Jeremy in the starting lineup, and that he did not. Let's see. Mr. Vainstain, a staple for SSPN. I think we should start Branham now. Hey, man. Over who? Julian? I mean, we basically kind of did. Julian only played 10 minutes tonight. I say we continue to bring him off the bench only because he's kind of vital to that bench unit as far as scoring. As much as I love Keldon, Keldon can't create his shot off the dribble like Malachi can. Goodness Lord. So if we put him in the starting lineup, that bench unit is going to lose a lot of offensive ability. But he has been playing well enough to deserve that spot, so I don't disagree. All right. And that is going to have to do it for me, guys. I appreciate everybody being in here, even though it was a tough loss. So please follow and subscribe. Oh, that is the wrong thing, huh? Whoop. Follow us on Twitter, at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. Don't forget to like and subscribe below. Always comment as well what kind of content you want to see as we wind down the season into the off season. We'll be making a lot more content out of the ordinary. So if you have something interesting that you would like to see, please drop it down below. We'll happily take a look at it. And we just like interacting with you guys anyway. Let's see. What am I missing? Jude always does this stuff. Oh, yeah. Check out our merchandise. Scan here. Go on our website. You can get one of these little nifty hats with the rope. Support us if you're able to. We always appreciate it when you guys are purchasing our stuff. It makes us feel very happy inside. And with the way the Spurs are playing, feeling happy inside is rare these days. With that being said, you guys have a great night, and we will see you on Thursday when the Spurs take on, let's see, who is it? Who do the Spurs take on? The Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. We're doing a pregame. I think it's going to be 7 or 7:30-ish, so be on the lookout for those on Twitter and on YouTube. We appreciate you guys being in here. Go Spurs, go.